Alright, hi, my name's Savannah, and I am the previous manager of the Makerspace, and I'm sad I won't be seeing any of you, but I'm going to attempt to try to train you guys for this upcoming semester. So this is the Makerspace. We have quite a few different Ultimakers. We have an Ultimaker 2, we have a couple Ultimaker 2 Pluses, and we have a couple Ultimaker 3s and a Formlab back there along with our Prusa. We also have our Prusa Minis, and we have a full-on Prusa also. But I am here to show you how to use the Ultimakers. So, once you log into our computer, I have 50,000 tabs open. Okay. This is the home screen, and I want you to click on Kira, because we use Kira for most of our Ultimakers. The thing you want to remember before you upload any files is to make sure you have the right printer selected. Sorry about the focus. So I have the Ultimaker 2 Plus selected. There we go. I have the Ultimaker 2 Plus selected, and I have 0.4 millimeter PLA. So this is the size of the nozzle. Right now it's got a 0.4 millimeter nozzle. So whenever you get a print, make sure you know what printer you're putting it on, because we sometimes have different nozzle sizes and each printer is different. Like this is the 2. We have the 2 Pluses, the 3, and the Prusas. So for the 2 and the 2 Pluses, you click the Ultimaker 2. And you want to check what the nozzle size is. Right now I have that up there showing the different nozzle sizes, so you can have some sort of system where you let each other know what nozzle sizes are currently on the printers. Alright, so once you have all that stuff selected, you can open up your files. So I'm going to click the little open folder. This is the print that somebody wants printed. I'm going to open it, and here's our file. It looks like we do need a little bit of support on this one. See how not everything touches the surface for that particular piece. So here's all our settings. Generally I try to keep the layer height as big as I can because the stuff prints faster. So right now we have a 0.4 millimeter nozzle on it, so I'm going to put it at 0.3 millimeters. The other thing I pay attention to is the top layers and bottom layers. So the bottom layers you generally only need like 3. The top layers, sometimes I'll do 4 or 5 depending on how much it has to bridge between. So sometimes you have really flat surfaces, you can up that a little bit. Infill is the big one. A lot of people want 100% infill, but we have not really gone above 50% because it tends to compromise the piece once you if you try to do 100% infill. Most pieces don't need 100% infill. They'll usually be strong at 50% infill, but I can put some kind of guidelines on a document for you guys. It doesn't really matter the infill pattern. There's a bunch of different things. You're just gonna have to play around with this and figure stuff out. Generating supports what you need if there is parts of the print that aren't touching the build plate. So see that yellow, that's part of the print that's not touching the build plate. So support's going to support it so it doesn't just print down. It'll print it more smoothly, or attempt to at the very least. And build plate adhesion, we used to have this on all the time, but I found that I don't really need it for my prints, so I generally just turn it off. But essentially it just kind of puts a border around it. They end up having to cut off, which is kind of a pain, so I tend to print it without. So those are kind of the generic settings. You can get more advanced settings once you get a little more comfortable with it, expert settings, all that good jazz. But this is what I would start off with. So then once everything looks good, you can go to preview up at the top, and it will give you a preview of what it looks like. So there's this little bar. It shows you layer by layer what it's printing. So blue there is our support material, and then it's printing layer. See that orange kind of cross hatching? That is the infill, and then the yellow are the top layers and the bottom layers. So So this print's gonna take 22 minutes and 5 grams. So I'm going to, this is my printer I'm using. Actually, I'm not using 3, I'm gonna use 2. Just kidding. So I'm gonna turn this printer on. The power button's already on the back. Then I want to grab my SD card from my printer, put it into my computer. Right there's the SD card holder. Sometimes it says this, they work. Don't worry about it. Okay. Then I want to save to removable drive. So it's gonna save it to my Makerspace. All of the SD cards and flash drives are generally called Makerspace. Then we can eject it. So take it out. And we can put it actually in our printer. And then we want to select print, the name of it. I want to find the name, which was badge edit. Start our print. Usually I try to put hairspray on it. That way the print sticks better. Make sure the build plate is decently clean. And then it will start heating up, getting ready to print. But I will show you what we do on the other end while that is working to print. We go to Makerspace Management or whatever you have it in on Teams, and then you'll have some sort of online 3D printing log. And then in here we log the person's name, so this will be me. So my name is Savannah Torrey. My print was called Badge Edit. My initials, so we know who did it, is ST. The printer I was on printer number 2. Today's date is the 26th. And Kira estimates 22 minutes, so about a half hour. And I started it at 4:39. And it's PM, not AM. So we log all that information, and usually, sometimes people will request a lot of different objects. And if I can't print everything on the build plate, I'll usually leave a little note off to the side saying this is not all the parts, and usually I leave some sort of list for people. So like that's the last part we had to print, but we have, and then we can cross off as we go what we need. So that's how you log it. It's still heating up. I can talk about some of the main issues in this video. Number one issue I usually have with these printers is that the feeder will jam. So here's my feeder right here. It will stop pulling filament and it will just keep biting into the same piece. You usually have to remove the filament, which you can do up here. You can change the filament, and usually I take a spare piece of filament, take this Bowden tube out and shove it down there so I can get, usually it's something stuck up in the print head. So if you take that, you can usually clear out any, like if there's some ABS in there or something else, you can usually clean out that. So then this will start printing, and we usually want to watch the first few layers, make sure it prints well, and check on it periodically, because sometimes it'll start having issues once it starts up or later on. So make sure you're checking throughout your shift the printers, making sure they work. If you have issues, your best friend is YouTube. Usually just search what your problem is, and there are a lot of people who have a lot of different suggestions. That's how we all learn in the first place normally, and obviously you won't have a staff member who had been here in previous years, so it prints out a little blob to start with to make sure that filament's coming out and that's the right color. And then it will move on and it'll start printing the actual outline, and then so on and so forth. So it looks like it's having, the filament's coming out, so that's a good sign. So once you have it all locked, you're good, and then you can start putting the next print on.